the Luna Petunia fan here. Last time we did the history of Cartoon Network, time to do the history of Nickelodeon. The year is 1997. A new channel came, and it was called Cube. It was a cable channel based in Columbus, Ohio. It had a local channel known as C3. It only aired one show, a children's variety program called Pinwheel. Pinwheel was developed by former employees of CTW, best known for creating Sesame Street. More specifically, Dr. Vivian Horner, who also founded C3, before she was an educator and researcher for the PBS series, The Electric Company. It would be broadcast on loop from December 1st until March 31st, 1999. On April Fool's Day of 1979, everything changed. Time Warner Cable purchased C3 and changed the name to the time-honored Nickelodeon. Nickelodeon's very first logo looked like this. Pinwheel was Nick's launching program. And now more shows like these are added. And then the logo changed again. Nickelodeon will intentionally air 13 hours a day, while the Alpha Repertory Television Service, or ARTS, would broadcast at night. Next up, You Can Do That on Television was added to the schedule. It was basically the 80s version of all that. In 1984, ART stopped existing, and it was replaced with Nick at Night. Well, the channel itself actually became A&E, and then their logo changed again. We now entered 1985. Nick at Night officially starts existing, and Turkey Television is added to the lineup. And then they launched Double Dare, a hit new game show. It also originated the famous Nickelodeon slime. Also, Viacom bought MTV. And then another game show called The Big Ballad. And then two things. First, Nick Jr. launched. Second, the fact that The Big Ballad just changed into the Kids' Choice Awards after only 1 year. And then Nickelodeon Studios Florida began construction. This is also when Nick Jr. got his first actual show, Eureka's Castle. Now, Nickelodeon started publishing magazines, but for now, they were exclusive to Pizza Hut. Nickelodeon Studios officially starts opening in Orlando, Florida. And then some more shows came, like Welcome Freshmen, Clarissa Explains It All, and Salute Your Shorts. And then they made game-changing shows, Doug, Rugrats, and the Ren and Stimpy Show. They were more referred to as Nicktoons. And then came Snick, a block that only airs on Saturday nights. It would broadcast shows such as these, but also aired 2 new shows exclusive to the block. And now, Rocko's Modern Life is added to the lineup. They also added new live-action hits. The young preschoolers could just tune in on weekday mornings. You can vote for your favorite things every year. You can tune in on Saturday nights for the ultimate Nick experiments. And now, Nick magazines were being sold all over the place. And then Sony Wonder made some Nickelodeon VHS tapes. Later in 1994, all that came along. Nickelodeon's parent company, Viacom, also bought Paramount Pictures around the time. Since Nickelodeon almost forgot that Nick Jr. existed, they decided to give it 2 new original shows, as well as a new mascot named Faith. I have to sit right now. In 1995, Nick went online with its own website. You may know it today as nick.com. They also launched Nick in the Afternoon. It was hosted by a popsicle stick named Stick Stickly. And then Nelvana made a show based on the Little Bear comics by Murari Sendak. But then Nick Jr. saw it and took it. And then in 1996, a lot of new shows came, such as Hey Arnold, Keenan and Kel, Blue's Clues, Space Cases, and the Mystery Files of Shelby Woo. And now Paramount owned their VHS tapes. I can't! Oh, Sony Wonder. Also, they made their first Nickelodeon movie, Harriet the Spy. And then they made their second movie, Good Burger, which was based on the All That skit of the same name. Also, then the Rugrats got turned into a movie, also referred to as the first Nicktoons to ever get turned in the movie. And then Nickelodeon, and its schedule was diverse. Oh, see that cartoon right there? Oh Yeah Cartoon was created to showcase pilots for future Nicktoons. And then they collaborated with CTW. And then they created an all-educational channel called Noggin. And then they created Nick Games and Sports, or Nick Gas. And they launched the game-changing SpongeBob SquarePants. SpongeBob has officially entered its second season, and Nick Jr. just debuted a new show that would basically be its equivalent of SpongeBob. They didn't think one channel was good enough, so they launched Nicktoons. We also got Nick on CBS. And then they made Invader Zim and the Fairly Odd Parents. And then a movie called Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius. Nick also got a Sunday night counterpart in the form of T-Nick. And also Nicktoons TV, the channel that only plays Nickelodeon's Nicktoons. And they also turned Jimmy Neutron into a show. So now Nickelodeon had 4 different channels, and soon to be 5, after Noggin made a teenager's block called The N. Noggin was basically a clone of Nick Jr., because in 2003, he was basically a clone. On the same day, Noggin introduced 2 new mascots, Moose and Z. And then came Jimmy Neutron Infinity War. And then SpongeBob released the game called Battle for Bikini Bottom. And then some more new shows came, such as Drake and Josh, Danny Phantom, and the Backyardigans. And then Nickelodeon launched the Worldwide Day of Play. And then Avatar: The Last Airbender launched. Also, sorry for my bad grammar, and ignore the fact that the background just got a bit brighter. And then Nickelodeon Studios Orlando was shut down. And also Snick was shut down. And then Nicktoons renamed itself to Nick Jr. Nicktoons Network. And then we also lost Nick on CBS. iCarly came, and Little Bill finally started airing on Noggin. Nick made a deal with DreamWorks Animation to produce shows based on their movies. And then another show, Fanboy and Chum Chum. And then Nickelodeon and its whole family changed their logos. And then Avatar: The Last Airbender became the first Nicktoon to ever turn into a live-action movie. And then they decided to make a block dedicated to nostalgia, named after All That. And then Moose and Z are gone after 9 years. And then after that, Nick Jr. went to having a nighttime block again by the name of Nick Mom. And then came their streaming service, CBS All Access. And then the Kids' Choice Awards got a sequel by the name of Kids' Choice Awards. And then Noggin and Moose and Z are back. But it's no longer a cable channel, it's a streaming service. In the 90s, All That had a name change to The Splat. And then they they made Make It Pop.
Fine, I can go see him.
It would refer to Nick attempts at making a live-action anime. Hey, remember the dream we were steal? Well, it's officially not happening anymore. And then Nick Music arrived to replace MTV hits. And then The Fairly Odd Parents finally ended after 16 years. And then Double Dare returned, and it was slimier than ever. And then the Splat got renamed to Nick Rewind. And then Worldwide Day of Play officially stopped existing after 15 years. CBS All Access transformed to Paramount Plus on March 4th, 2021. Paramount Plus is making revamped versions of Nick classics, such as the Rugrats CGI version and a more modern iCarly. And then Viacom outright changed its name to Paramount Global in 2022. The sad music is playing because Dr. Vivian Horner, the founder of Nickelodeon, passed away at the age of 88. But there is something pretty sick in 2023. Nickelodeon aired their 36th Kids' Choice Awards, and it came with a neat little surprise. Nickelodeon officially welcomed their orange glob of slime back into their logo. This, along with a new aesthetic to their bumpers, are still being used right now. The end. Like and subscribe.